Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Uncultured Universe. We are the podcast where two friends show each other movies, shows, and anything else that they need to see, hear, or experience in order to get a little more cultured. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm joined as always by the uncultured Justin.
Hello.
Today it's time to be your own rainbow and try not to drink a bottle of yourself. It's the 1999 Saturday Night Live comedy Superstar.
1999, that really surprised me. I honestly thought this was earlier in the 90s.
Right, because we covered Wayne's World, and that was 92?
92. Yeah.
92. And
So
yeah,
like
I do think of Michael Myers, and Molly Shannon as kind of being in the same generation of SNL, were they not?
I don't think they were actually. I don't think if they did intersect, it was probably for a very like one season, if at all.
Mike Myers may have been like very late 80s, early 90s with like the Dana Carvey of it all, because they were doing like early Bush.
Yeah.
And then Molly Shannon, I know, was like maybe mid to late 90s to early 2000s because she was with Will Ferrell. So maybe a little bit of intersection there.
All right, let's see. When was she on SNL television? Saturday Night Live, 1995. Okay, so Mike Myers was on SNL from 89 to 95. Molly Shannon was 95 to 2001. So there probably
Wow.
was a season where they overlapped. Or maybe not. Maybe it was tail end, you know?
We grew up, we randomly had these like DVD box sets of 4 different SNL people where they would just like compile sketches together onto
Yeah.
DVDs because
Yeah.
we didn't have like cable or anything. So we just had like a shit ton of DVDs at our house. And so we had Mike Myers, I think Chris Kattan, Tracy Morgan, and then Sherry O'Terry.
What
And
a
those all
mix.
kind of mixed together. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was kind of a crazy mix.
That's
Um,
wild. I remember doing the same thing in college. We would watch like the best of Jimmy Fallon, the best of
it was the
like
best of this. Yeah.
that crew, the Fallon era, the Fallon years.
So I guess you do have like the Mike Myers, Dana Carvey years transitions into Molly Shannon, Will
Will
Ferrell,
Ferrell.
among others, and then that eventually gets you to like the 1, 2, 3 punch of like Keenan, Sudeikis, who else? Andy Samberg,
Yeah.
Fred Armisen, and then getting into Kristen Wiig. And wow,
Yeah. I think that's like when SNL, in my opinion, like reached apex,
yeah,
apex predator kind of thing. In terms of just firing on all cylinders. It was in the daily zeitgeist conversations of like, did you watch SNL last night? All these digital shorts with this guy, Andy Samberg. He does these
yeah,
raps and they're crazy. Like, but like the season or like cast before that, like that we were talking about with Molly Shannon, Will Ferrell, that kind of stuff. I think that's more of like the golden era of
yeah.
SNL. Even though, we talked already about the early 90s, late 80s, Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, that kind of thing. But it
No,
did
I would
kind of
agree.
for a while.
Yeah, you did, because you had like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler in there earlier as well, and then for a lot of people in our generation, it really hit with like the Lonely Island of it all, and so that was kind of
Yeah.
like the before versus after.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking about SNL movies, this miniseries. I suppose they are still making movies based off of SNL properties. Like they just came out with a movie about the group of guys who's like the Lonely Island follow up. Please Don't Destroy. They had their own movie. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
And but specifically, one thing I noticed with Superstar, the movie that we're covering here, is that in the opening credits there was like an SNL Studios. Like,
That
did you see
surprised
that
me
on your
too.
end?
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, whoa, SNL Studios. I don't remember ever seeing that title card anywhere or
Yeah.
hearing anything about that taking off.
Yeah, I mean, so they have Wayne's World in the early 90s. That becomes a hit, like financially, even more so than like critically.
Yeah,
And so that obviously puts some juice behind the idea, like, yeah, let's translate some of these popular SNL sketches, shows, scenes, we'll never land on the right word there,
no,
into theatrical movies. And I don't know if they ever really reached the height of Wayne's World. I mean, like I'll get into it with the details of this movie, but like this movie didn't receive amazing reviews. Most of them were kind of like middling to negative. My
sure,
personal opinion is that they didn't really get it at the time. But it also definitely didn't hit like the box office as hard as Wayne's World either.
sure, yeah,
I think SNL was maybe just doing some weird stuff that the culture wasn't ready for.
yeah.
And they continue to do that today.
And I think
I mean, even though
this,
there's maybe less bite today, but we'll talk.
sure, yeah. Like I think this character, Mary Katherine Gallagher, her whole skit, the whole deal, her whole deal, from the TV show, the skit, the skitdom, sketchness of
Mm-hmm.
it. I think it was kind of hard to kind of capture the same magic in feature length form.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does some of the gags and stuff that you see and a lot of the highlight skits and things like that. But it's like we talked about with Wayne's World, where you take this central idea, two dudes in a basement doing a TV show, and you kind of like plop them in a real world. You kind of extrapolate it. It's kind of weird for a second. You got to get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Wayne's World, you still have like the two-hander between Wayne and Garth, and so you can always kind of fall back on that to be like, okay, this is the energy we're getting from the skits. It's just
Yeah,
between them and them talking. But with Mary Katherine Gallagher as a character, it's kind of just her. So building the entire movie around her requires a lot more new stuff to be involved. So
yeah,
you have the voiceover, you have these new characters, you have this like very 90s premise of a story that revolves around a high school talent show.
challenge. Oh yeah, it's so good.
But yeah, where are you coming into Molly Shannon and Mary Katherine Gallagher? What was your knowledge before?
I remember this trailer and the conversation of like, Superstar, the movie or whatever. And I was like, oh, like I don't really remember that skit. I'm kind of familiar, but I just the armpits and the sniffing, uh, like that's the only thing I knew about this character. I was like, oh, they're doing a whole movie about that person. Interesting. I don't think I'm going to see that. Because this was 1999. The Matrix was coming out, and
You
among
were busy.
I was busy. I had to go watch The Matrix and get my little 13-year-old mind blown. This one passed me by. I was, vaguely familiar with the concept of superstar, but that was it.
Double feature of Matrix and the Superstar. We need to make it happen again.
Could we? Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about like what typically makes up like a Mary Katherine Gallagher sketch. So there were, I think, at least 20 sketches over the years between like Molly Shannon's heyday and SNL, and then a couple more times when she came back to SNL,
Right.
featuring Mary Katherine Gallagher. It is the character that she's most well known for. This high school Catholic school girl who is extremely overconfident, yet full of nerves, yet hormonal and hypersexual, yet has like gross out armpit humor because she's very weird and antisocial in certain areas.
She's Tina Belcher. Right?
Okay. That inevitably did come up in my notes.
Just
this
go
this
ahead.
is kind of it's Tina Belcher. This is maybe the closest we have to like a live action Bob's Burgers in a weird way, which is crazy because we just covered Bob's Burgers.
I know.
But yeah, the Tina Belcher energy is coming off the page with Mary Katherine Gallagher. It's a level of like, she's so inside her own head. She constantly gets in her own way, and yet she can't help but just be like bursting forth with these like hormonal teenage girl energy and all the awkwardness that comes with it.
Yeah, the culmination of that is like the last scene when she's like saying bye to the tree and she's just like shuddering, just like It's hilarious. But yet it is totally Tina Belcher energy. I totally get why you love this movie and you love Bob's Burgers and all that, because it's the connection that you didn't know was happening in your brain.
Yeah, my final note. So you hear Mary Katherine Gallagher narrating the movie the entire time, and then in the final scene, like you're saying she has been talking to a tree the whole time, which is like one of her former flings because she used to like make out with trees, and so she's essentially like breaking up with it because she's like, I'm with Slater now.
So fucking funny.
But yeah, so you have this character, and then a typical SNL skit revolving around this character takes place in like this kind of Catholic school setting. So you have like students, you have other teachers. Sometimes she's in like a restaurant or somewhere else. But it's very much like, oh, this is like a straight-laced high school. Some sort of event is happening, and then she runs in immediately, wants to introduce herself to everyone as Mary Katherine Gallagher, full name only. And then attempts to do something with a level of overconfidence, ultimately gets shut down, always wants to express her feelings in a monologue from a made-for-TV movie. One of the best things about Molly Shannon in this character is how much she commits to acting out those monologues, and how it never like makes sense within the scene itself. She always picks the most random monologue from the most random movie, but it's clearly like, this is how I'm feeling at this time.
Yeah.
And I mean, the background that they build out within the movie is that she is the rewind girl at a VHS rental store. Mm-hmm. And so this is a girl who basically lives her life through movies. And so that's kind of the only way she can express herself. And then the skits typically end with a level of like extreme physical comedy. So oftentimes it's Molly Shannon just like destroying the entire set.
Yeah.
Like getting like way too exuberant and just like crashing through a wall or like knocking down several toilet stalls. Like I think I read I listened to Molly Shannon's autobiography a couple years back. I wish I could remember more, but I know it was a point that they had to like really make sure a lot of the sets where she acted were like OSHA certified and
structurally
safe and,
sound,
like, cushioned, because there was no surface she wouldn't have a chance of just like smashing her body against, basically.
I know. Amazing.
Yeah. So you have this character. It's the breakout character for her. They decide to build a movie around her, giving her a grandmother character, giving her a more fleshed out school environment, and then, like I said, you have kind of a pretty standard 90s kids movie storyline where like she's got to win the big talent show to get the ticket to Hollywood to star in as an extra in a movie with positive moral values.
That's so funny. The when they unfurl that giant banner and it's just wall to wall text, it's amazing.
Help us fight venereal disease.
Oh God, that's right. Oh man.
And then you've obviously got some SNL folks coming over, mainly Will Ferrell being a new character introduced here, the dual role of Sky Kerrigan and Jesus, which I was
totally not ready for that. Was not ready for that. That was, yeah. Is he credited as both?
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I completely forgot he was playing God in this movie as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredibly quotable movie in my household. Screaming "You're horrible" at each other.
You're horrible. You're horrible. Slamming the door at each other. That's amazing.
Acting out Sally Field as Sybil in Sybil. We'll never get old. Putting on a Puerto Rican accent.
It's such a choice, and it's so fun to like see them, like these SNL characters just kind of just evolve and kind of just like take the ball and run.
Yeah.
Based on these little bits of exploration that they've done.
I mean, you have these TV actors and these TV, I guess, crew members, like directors, writers, and all that. And you always hear about the gap between like television and movies and how certain people just stick with one and not the other. And it's interesting how these SNL movies kind of paved the way for a lot of crossover there in the 90s. Like you would think maybe like, is this the first foray into movies for someone like Will Ferrell, who is known primarily as a movie star these days?
Now, yeah.
And
I
Molly
think
Shannon, and then Mike Myers and all that. It was a natural stepping off point for a lot of them.
absolutely, yeah. Like I think this was like about the time when Will Ferrell's hitting his crest
Mm-hmm.
within SNL and before like old school hits and like and then Will Ferrell's in everything, at that
Mm-hmm.
point by the time the 2000s come around, early 2000s. So yeah, it's a real interesting kind of like jumping off point for all of these actors.
Let me give you some stats here. So we're talking about Superstar, released in October of 1999,
Mm.
directed by Bruce McCullough, who was also a writer on SNL. Makes sense. Starring the incomparable Molly Shannon, Will Ferrell in a dual role, Harland Williams as a 40-year-old playing a teenager.
They're all 40
Um,
playing teenagers.
it's insane. Um, Uncultured Universe fave Elaine Hendrix.
Oh, that's right. Shout out Elaine.
Mark McKinney, aka Glenn from Superstore, and then Hollywood icon Glynis Johns in her last film role. But don't worry, she just died this past January at
At
the age of
100.
100.
It's amazing.
So she got a nice little retirement there.
We were watching a little bit of the way through, and Ryan goes, "I know this woman. Hang on." She looks it up, and she's like, "Yep, that's right, Mary Poppins."
Mary Poppins, baby.
And she looked the same, remarkably.
She must have held some sort of record, like her versus like Angela Lansbury versus like Betty White. I think it's like oldest person who was nominated for an Oscar, or like oldest person from the golden age of Hollywood or whenever who was still alive until she passed away this past year.
Yeah.
But yeah, she stuck around. But yeah, I know her primarily from this, and then as the mom from Mary Poppins.
Yep,
which I would say most people do.
So like after the movie, like Ryan's like singing to me like Mary Poppins songs. She's like, "That's all I took away from that movie is that the lady from Mary Poppins was also in this movie." And that's where my brain stuck. And I was like, "That's amazing."
I also had a note here. I don't know if this is correct because it was on Wikipedia, but Mark McKinney, who plays the head priest of the school, his official name is Father Tylenol Ridley.
What?
Which made me laugh. This movie made 30 million against a budget of 14. Not too bad. But received mostly negative reviews because the world was clearly not ready for it at the time. Justin, how did this movie fare in the Jackson household?
So this admittedly was not a like an LOL type of movie, a raffle kind of movie, rolling on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It still had its ridiculous scenes and that jumped out. Like I wrote down some of my favorite stuff that jumped out from it, which is just the most ridiculous things that jumped out from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got the same kind of feeling from watching Wayne's World. It's just like sometimes the comedy doesn't translate over or hit as hard as maybe an SNL sketch would, because you have the live aspect of it, you have the audience participation of it, kind of like lifting it up a little bit more. And that's the trouble with comedy, period, I think. But
so much classic 90s use of the R slur in this movie too.
Oh man, yeah, that was also like, oh, that's right, it's 1999. It's 1999. It was a troubling time for everybody. But
yeah, we talk about like the similarities between like the Bob's Burgers universe and Superstar in terms of like the zany characters and the central Mary Katherine Gallagher being very much Tina Belcher coded. I was also thinking while watching this, it's kind of a precursor for a movie that came a few years later that I'm sure you've seen, Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you have like that same
just
kind of weird small town dry vibe. You have this like socially not really outcast, but like socially different central character that has a lot of confidence, but maybe isn't someone you would normally meet on the street. And
Yeah,
then again, I think it's also a talent show in Napoleon Dynamite. That's
it
kind of
is.
like the ultimate goal at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Or no,
Yeah,
it's a school presidential election.
that's right. That's right. Vote for Pedro. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I can totally see the connections there of, like you said, socially outcast or, not typical lead that you would follow. Someone who's kind of on the outskirts of typical like popularity within a high school.
Hmm.
With that one, you do have high school passing looking people. This one, it's just they're 40. It's whatever. It's SNL wink wink at the camera kind of a thing. But yeah, I can definitely see the similarities with Napoleon Dynamite. Like, I think that was kind of like newer era comedy, going into the Judd Apatow,
Yeah.
like the Diablo Cody, that kind of stuff, like with Juno and all that, of
Hmm.
like, it's the comedy is more subdued, it's more dialed back, it's less about antics and over the top performances, and it's more subtlety. But a lot of those kinds of things still get played up here in Superstar. And some of those bits made me laugh more than some of the over the top ridiculous performances. One quote that I wrote down, it was just, it never got acknowledged or played up anymore. I can't remember her friend's name, but they're going to lunch, and she sits down with her plate and she says, "Do you want some of my sloppy Joseph?" And for some reason, I thought that was just so fucking funny and brilliant, because of course they would call it a sloppy Joseph in a Catholic
At a
school.
Catholic school. Yeah,
Like,
there's moments if you listen to them of like someone saying stuff over the intercom about like something being like Mary Magdelicious or something like
oh
that.
yeah,
Like
I got
they
those
they
too. Yeah.
have other times like that. It is so like cringe comedy from a Catholic school setting.
It's so great, yeah. But like some of those subtler bits, I thought were uh, um, more successful, I think, and more akin to some of like those more modern comedies that we kind of
Mhm.
think of that are just played more straight and more just like deadpan, um, which I think is what the audience was ready for at that time.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You have something like Napoleon Dynamite that's maybe like an evolved version of this because it does have. It's weird to say it about Napoleon Dynamite, but like it does have kind of a more cohesive story and it has more like emotionally grounded characters.
Yeah.
Whereas with Superstar, you can kind of tell like they were like, okay, these are the pieces we're working for from uh, the sketch on SNL. Like these
Hmm.
are the key ingredients. Literally, let's just start throwing some stuff at the board for what to build around that in order to make a movie. And so you have Mary hallucinating Jesus. You have the backstory of her parents getting stepped to death in a step competition. It's literally, you can tell it's like they were like, who's gonna say no? Like what we don't
Yeah.
have any rules here. Why does it matter? Just get
Yeah.
a laugh.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
and the storyline is it's pretty simple, right? It's like you said, it's a high school competition talent show. She's pining for the popular kid. She has a best friend, but there's like love triangle third party guy, ties back to her backstory, which was interesting and fun. Coming of age tale.
mhm.
There she has a nemesis character in Elaine Hicks. Again, shout out Elaine. um Amazing, like, typical kind of like high school film type of things.
Right. It almost feels like there's certain comedy shows in this same setting that kind of deal with like a slightly like 1% heightened version of reality than normal. So you have like something like Malcolm in the Middle or Pete
Mm,
and Pete
yeah.
is what I think of, where it's just like these, yeah, this setting looks familiar, but this is not existing on Earth
Yeah,
in a weird
it's the
way.
absurdity is turned up just a little bit more, where you kind of have over the top characters like Arnie, the strongest man in the world, that kind of thing, where it's just a little cheeky, that kind of thing. Or you have, and the only comparison I can think of is the more modern comedies of like Modern Family, The Office,
Hmm.
Parks and Rec, where it's kind of like slice of lifey. You're kind of like taking a peek inside of a world, even though there are still zany characters there. It's still like reality based in a way. I don't know.
God, we got to talk about like the Nickelodeon movies of the 90s and 2000s too, and how that was kind of like the kid version of all of this. So you have SNL like releasing movie versions of their sketches, and then you have Nickelodeon movies that are like launching kid careers. Like, have you ever seen Harriet the Spy?
I did not see Harriet the Spy, but I am familiar. But I do remember the Good Burger movie, the original Good Burger movie.
Yeah.
From the 90s.
Like the classic, what is it, like the orange video cassettes that you always knew were Nickelodeon?
Yeah. But that spun off Kenan Thompson's career from the kids version of SNL, which was all that from Nickelodeon, which was incredible. It was the same thing.
Maybe all the TV and movie producers just across the industry just got together in the 90s and were like, okay, here's what we're going to try. We're going to A/B test some stuff. You guys have got these people. You guys have got those kids. Let's slot them in November. We're all going to make money here, baby.
Everyone's going to make money. Yeah.
All right. So talking about the... go ahead before I make you do a plot description.
I was going to say, before we jump into the plot description or any deeper into the movie, let's take a look at the trailer and then get the flavor. And we'll go from there. Yeah.
You come down just like Holy Mary, Mariana Cross. Not just another Bloody Mary, Mariana. You go down just like Holy Mary, Mariana Cross. Your beauty never ever scared me, Mariana Cross.
Superstar.
Justin once again proving that this podcast is actually a front, and his true skills lie in creating beautiful TikTok-worthy fan cams of the movies that we cover. When are we releasing the album for these things?
Fall 2024. Stay on the lookout. We're going to partner with Matt from Puppy Songs, and he's going to help us do it. It's going to be great. Maybe.
Uncultured Universe Hits Volume 1.
Volume 1. Hitting
Yeah.
your eye holes and ear holes.
TBD.
Yeah.
Releasing only on compact disc.
Okay, a little bit of retro stuff. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this plot since we danced around it, and we'll dig into it a little bit more.
Might be deceptively hard, but let's see. All right. 1 minute to give you the plot of Superstar. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Ready, go.
Superstar centers around Mary Katherine Gallagher, who is this exuberant 40-year-old child in Catholic school who just loves life and just is a horny teenager. And she wants to perform in the local talent show so she can go to Hollywood and star in a film with upstanding moral values. But she's also pining after the popular kid who is Will Ferrell. But she also has a friend, but she also has an enemy, once again, with Elaine Hendrix. So she's going to practice and she's going to do the thing, but grandma says no, because your parents died by getting stomped to death because they were Irish step dancers. So you can't perform. And she's like, no, I'm going to do it. And she's like, well, if you're going to do it, you can do it the right way. So like she gets with the other kids in her special ed class and they put on her performance and she wins. And but then there's like this kid that she saved his life, which was from the first scene. And it's Harlan Williams, who's a motorcycle driving high school kid, and they fall in love, and it's great. But she's making out with the tree the whole time. The end.
Justin, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. It was all things we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that covers the beats of it. It's really just like we were saying. Like it's how do you expand upon the plot of a single skit that takes place in a single room most of the time and build a story around that? And you can tell what they do is they take like I would say like every recurring SNL skit has the beats that they always hit, that you can always expect, that kind of makes them fan favorites. And so you have Mary Katherine Gallagher giving these monologues. You have her being kind of like overly exuberant with her emotions, and then you have her like wrecking shit. And so they take that and they just essentially drop those pieces into what would otherwise be kind of just a generic teen comedy story. And there you have a movie.
Yeah, they were pretty
Um,
smart about it too, because like if you were to ask anybody like who Mary Katherine Gallagher was, or like who is this character from SNL, they'd be like, oh, that's the chick who does this, right? And she's like always knocking over shit. And they'd be like, well, they're going to make a movie of that. And be like, how are you going to make those two things be a movie the whole time? And it only happens like twice, right? She only does the
Yeah.
armpit thing once, and she like knocks over the chairs in her typical fashion. She strikes the superstar pose once or twice too. So they were
They're
sparing in the the one-to-one onesiness of skit to movie.
it is the pieces that are from the skit specifically are, yeah, it's like you're saying, they're almost like little cameo callbacks where you could remove them from the story and it would probably be fine. They mainly just help to like build the picture of Mary Katherine Gallagher as this like slightly weird individual, which helps. But I think what holds the movie together for me is Molly Shannon's performance. Again, she does look like a mid-30s woman playing a teenager, but she is just fully game the entire time, and she has this like intensity in her face that is very Tina Belcher. That I think anytime she's on screen, I'm in it. Regardless of how like strong or weak the supporting elements are.
And it's not really it's in addition to like her intensity, like crazy eyed look. She has the long hair that curtains her face and the glasses, which is 1-to-1 of Tina Belcher. But like even in some of her like monotone kind of delivery and kind of just like she's not talking up here, she's kind of talking back here, but she's kind of talking to herself, but also talking to you at the same time. That's very Tina Belcher, and it feels amazing. And I love that we have that connection. It's so great.
A little bit of Tina in all of us. Let's talk a little bit about the supporting cast here. So you have Glynis Johns as her grandmother. I love that she gets the one F-bomb of the movie.
Yeah, I did not expect that either.
I think they knew who they casted when they casted this like Hollywood legend in this SNL movie. It's like we're gonna make Glynis Johns say fucking bookie wookie or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh
God.
She has this insane wheelchair that she's in all the time. Sure, let's not make her stand. That sounds like the ideal job for me.
Yeah.
And then she has this intensity that kind of matches Mary Katherine's in a way, even though you can tell she's always going to be in the corner for her daughter or granddaughter.
Yeah.
But still is able to kind of go 1-to-1 with her in terms of like arguing over whether or not she should be a superstar or a businesswoman in this case, which leads to scenes like the classic "You're horrible" scene. And
my favorite, she's like, "I'm sorry, I stayed after school studying business." That's such a good line, and it's so funny. Yeah, the whole like protective grandmother kind of a thing is a fun trope. Only to lead with the bait and switch of like, I'm going to tell you how your parents really died. They weren't torn to pieces by a school of hammerhead sharks. They were stomped to death in a similar high school talent competition. Like,
she only told her the hammerhead sharks to make her feel better.
Yeah, ridiculous. Only to be tied back again to her love interests. Parents actually dying by that way, which is interesting coincidence, which brings me to a neat point. Cocktail Hour, sponsored by Uncultured Universe.
What do you got going?
The whole bit that made me laugh the most was the bit about the hammerhead sharks. So I was inspired to make a cocktail. Do a little ASMR. This is called a shark bite. It's rum and sweet and sour mix and blue curacao and a couple drops of grenadine in top.
That looks
make it bloody, and it's really good.
That looks vibrantly blue. Wow,
it is. It is violent. Yeah, it's like a coolant fluid for your car. It's good.
How does that taste?
Very good, like the beach.
Okay,
like a vacation.
for my cocktail, I could not help myself. Um, I'm calling it a bottle of yourself, and it's a bottle of Evian.
You specifically went out and bought Evian. I love
I
it.
specifically went to the gas station down the road from my house about an hour ago to buy a bottle of Evian in honor of Elaine Hendrix, villainous character in Superstar, who is
Shout out
named
Elaine.
Evian.
Just so
Shout out to
funny.
Elaine, fan favorite when we watched The Parent Trap live at the Plaza Theater here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone got more applause when they came on screen than her character.
It was kind of tied between her and like Chessie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
those two. Who
But this was also
are
a
best
wussy
friends
event.
in real life, I think.
Are they? Amazing.
Mhm.
Which this was a wussy event, so like, you know, like we're gonna cheer for the like the strong lesbian character who pops out. But also, you know, we love a messy villainous, heinous creature that Elaine loves to play, apparently.
We love just an uncompromising bitch.
Yeah.
in like a yes queen kind of
Yeah.
way.
When she came on screen and I was like, Elaine Hendrix, that's amazing. She loves to play a villain.
Yeah. I think she ultimately gets like the runner-up comedy prize for me in this movie. Aside from Molly Shannon, she's the one I go to for the one-liners the most. And so anytime she talks about, so for context, she's playing like the popular head cheerleader at high school who is Mary Katherine Gallagher's essentially nemesis.
Yeah.
She's dating Will Ferrell, who is Mary Katherine Gallagher's crush. And so she's clearly this like evil person who is constantly doing like fun runs and walks for stuff like psoriasis and venereal disease. She the way that they bully Mary Katherine Gallagher, like what does she say? Like Mary Katherine sucks or something like that.
Yeah, just like really baseline, simple kind of thing.
Super
like,
sucks.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, like nothing can really top the moment in this movie where Mary Katherine Gallagher reaches for like the ultimate burn, which is like, you should be really embarrassed because your parents named you after bottled water, which is finally addressing why her name is Evian.
Yeah, I know. I caught it as soon as it was like uttered and like on closed captioning. I was like Evian, and I was like the fucking water. That's incredible.
It's so good. The writer's room was having fun with that. So she's here. She's a blast. Will Ferrell's here again in a dual role as Sky, the most popular kid in school.
Sky.
Very Jimmy Jr. coded. So we watched 4 Bob's Burgers episodes for our Bob's Burger episode. Was Jimmy Jr. in any of those?
He did.
For like a second.
Was he the object of Tina's in the
Valentine's?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the thing,
he sucks. Yeah, he sucks.
The thing with him, he is the son of Jimmy Pesto, who is the guy across the street from Bob's Burgers who owns an Italian like pizza restaurant, who is like Bob's nemesis.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Jr. and Tina constantly have this like will they or won't they connection, even though he mostly ignores her because he's like a stupid little boy and he only wants to dance is his thing. So he's constantly like breaking out into dance moves.
Very Sky Will Ferrell in that.
Extremely Sky in this movie. So Will Ferrell with his dance moves, most popular guy in school, looks 40. Also playing Mary Katherine's subconscious version of God when he comes to her in a vision, who seems like a pretty chill dude. I love when the dog gets almost killed and arrives at heaven, and Will Ferrell has to like send the dog back because Mary Katherine needs it.
It's so absurd. Yeah, I thought there were more ridiculous names, but there's really not that many. But like Evian and like Sky and Slater are like such hilarious names. But then like everyone else kind of has just straightforward names. Mary Katherine and Maria and Summer. Like
except for Father Tylenol Ridley, apparently.
Tylenol Ridley, like insane. Like we can do whatever we want. Like this is an SNL sketch. No one literally expects nothing sillier from us. This guy's name is Sky Corrigan. Like,
yeah. The structure of the movie is largely like, let's have a series of scenes just building up each character for the first 20 minutes or so. Let's have Mary Katherine Gallagher meet her new best friend. Again, this movie has probably a slightly outdated version of like what special ed classes are.
yeah.
It's really just like mainly like the weird kids in this movie.
Mhm.
Meets her best friend there. They have some moments, and then, like you're saying, there's a large unveiling of this massive poster for a talent show to fight venereal disease, which then becomes the one and only goal that Mary is fighting for.
Yeah. Also, there's the early career surprise to me appearance of a young Tom Green.
Oh, tell me more about that. Is he like the crazy, like mean bully kid?
Yeah. He went on to have like a ridiculous comedy career on MTV. Like the following year, I think it was like the early 2000s, maybe around this time too, late 90s. Just this off the wall character, performer, comedian.
Was he the guy who was married to Drew Barrymore for like a second?
Yes.
Okay.
He's in one of the
Charlie's Angels.
one of the Charlie's Angels movies.
Yeah.
He was married to her. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, he showed up and I was like, huh, this is a very 90s movie. Yeah. With him in there.
All right. Let's talk through some final thoughts here before we get into end games. So as we talk about SNL movies as part of these miniseries, is this something you would want to see come back, like with the way that SNL is working these days? Do you want to see them kind of build on a single character? Do you watch SNL these days?
I don't watch SNL these days, so I wouldn't have any like room to speak to like, oh, it would be great if they did a sketch like this, because I'm not too familiar with it, and I don't think honestly, like, I think they've fallen out of favor of just the zeitgeist of like what they used to be in this era, even through the early aughts, because no one has cable anymore, right? Anyone can watch whatever they want, whenever the hell they want. Which kind of like shoots in the foot of this kind of programming, right? On once a week at the same time slot, kind of a thing, but it's only on cable. Every once in a while, you get highlight skits or whatever that gets shown on TikTok, or Instagram or whatever. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with the current lineup of anybody or like any memorable characters.
I think
this time.
I think Saturday Night Live is a jumping off point for these television comedic actors to get into film is still like present today, but I think it's evolved to the point where it's less about like, let's focus on a single character that they play and more about the actors themselves being breakouts. So you have like someone like Bowen Yang on SNL these days, who is showing up in more and more movies, but it's more about like him as an actor and as a presence rather than like any specific character being played.
Kind of like what Jason Sudeikis kind of did. He didn't have like one specific character that propelled him. He was just a really strong comedic actor. And then that's led him to do really, really, really great things with like Ted Lasso and things.
Yeah, I think you start to see that turn in the Sudeikis years, like with Amy Poehler, with Tina Fey, with Sudeikis, with Bill Hader, Fred Armisen. They all just kind of like develop comedic presences on their own and then bring that into whatever movie, TV project they work on next.
Yeah, and I think like the last movie, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, based on an SNL sketch in recent past, I guess, would be MacGruber.
Yeah, I mean, other than like the Lonely Island stuff, the Please Don't Destroy stuff, but is MacGruber SNL?
Yeah, MacGruber was an SNL sketch. Yeah,
Will Forte, right?
Will Forte. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never saw it. I never saw the movie, but but that's my only touch point there.
Well, good to know.
Yeah, good to know.
All right, let's kind of wrap up some thoughts about Superstar. I'm constantly wishing I had more Bob's Burgers episodes I could have shown you, because Molly Shannon does in fact play a recurring character on Bob's Burgers. Her name is Millie. She is in Louise's grade, and she's often kind of posed as the Hannibal Lecter to Louise's Clarice Starling. She's psychotic. She's constantly stalking Louise and wants to be her best friend. She knows everything about everyone, and she's just like crazy in the head. And it's Molly Shannon playing this like young blonde girl.
That's insane. I love that.
She's really good.
There's literally nothing stopping us from doing a Bob's Burgers Part 2 follow-up episode where you give me 4 more episodes to watch.
Or we watch the Bob's Burgers movie.
Or we could do the movie. Who knows? But I honestly had a pretty good time with Superstar. I wrote some of my favorite standout things. Let's see. I wrote her parents were stomped to death. LOL. Towards the end of like the talent show, whatever, either like right when it's starting or right when it's ending, and they're handing out the prizes or something. One of the judges or someone has a jacket on, and it's from the radio station, and it's WGOD. And I was like, that's amazing. That's a good touch. Well done, costume department. Yeah, the things you mentioned, there's a call out with like the loudspeaker or something of talking about like undeviled eggs. It's all Mary Magdelicious. That got a good LOL out of me. Yes, this was the main thing where I realized that she is Tina Belcher when she first gets called out for making out with the tree. She's kind of like apologizing to the nun or whatever, and she just said, "I was just doing my part to save the rainforest."
I wrote that down too.
It's so good. And then this last one was one that got a good laugh out of me. Miss Gallagher, what was that horrible thing you said to Sister Elaine? Told her to move her big white butt, or I would cold cock her honky ass. That's such a good line. Like you said, in the writing room, they're just like, no, I got it. Read that.
It's all the theatricality of like a WWE wrestler in the body of a small high school girl.
Right.
Is what's describing Superstar. Excellent. Okay. Shall we make our way to the end games and see whether or not I regret making this game for you?
You might. You said you were going to come for me because I kind of fucked you last episode, but yeah, let's see where we end up with this.
My feelings would best be expressed in a monologue. Mary Katherine Gallagher. My feelings would best be expressed in Mary Katherine Gallagher. Mary Katherine Gallagher. My feelings would best be expressed in Mary Katherine Gallagher. My feelings would best be expressed in Mary Katherine Gallagher. My feelings would best be expressed in a monologue.
Welcome, Justin, to Mary Katherine Monologue Mania. Here's what this is. We all know that Mary Katherine Gallagher best expresses her feelings in monologue form, preferably from a made-for-TV movie, if we can find it. Okay. In that spirit, I have come up with a guessing game, as we are wont to do on this podcast.
Yep.
Here's how it works.
Okay.
I will perform a monologue from a movie that we have covered on this podcast, and you will have to tell me which one. Pretty simple, right?
Great. What's the catch?
Here's the tricky bit. The tricky bit. And you're going to have to remember. Much like Jeopardy, your answer must be worded in a very particular way, which is, my feelings would best be expressed in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie, blank, starring blank. So you need the movie and the star in this case. Feel free to embellish, give it a little zhuzh, but that's essentially what I'm looking for. Would you like to practice?
So my feelings would best be described in a monologue from made-for-TV movie blank. Okay.
Starring.
Blank, yeah. From the made-for-TV movie blank, starring blank. Great, you got it.
So the made-for-TV movie, The Social Network, starring a young Miss Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah.
Miss Jesse Eisenberg.
Okay, I have 10 monologues prepared for you.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Do my best to act my way through, and we'll see how this goes.
Yep.
And some of them are shorter than others.
Yeah.
We'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
Who's defining what a monologue is and whether or not it needs to contain one person speaking?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Hit me.
Number 1. I'm such a big coward. All I do is hide. All of this magic is to keep everybody away. I can't stand how scared I am.
That's amazing. My feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Howl's Moving Castle, starring a young, voluptuous Christian Bale.
Excellent. You got it. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. Okay,
got it. Yeah.
Number 2. You were shoveling snow. I what? You were just a little girl in a flannel nightgown, and you were shoveling snow from the walk in front of our house. Wow. And I was the snow. And everywhere it landed and everywhere it covered, you scooped me up in a big red shovel. You scooped me up.
Out of context, this is icky.
Yeah, I made some hard ones for you.
But my feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie The Family Stone, starring the irreplaceable, indomitable Sarah Jessica Parker and Luke Wilson.
Excellent. You got it. All right. Number 3. This was a great idea, honey. Really, it's just magical. It makes me wish every night was Halloween. I'm sorry, Em. Wait, not yet. What? You're supposed to keep it lit. Why? Ancient tradition? Henry, it's Halloween, not Hanukkah. Baby, I'm lit and you're lit. But honey, our little friend here, his night's over. You know, there are rules. You should be more careful. You might upset someone. Oh, please. Who?
That was terrific back and forth. I love it. But to really express my feelings, they would be best described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Trick or Treat, starring those people and that one guy.
I need a name for this to count, Justin.
Come on. Anna Paquin. Anna Paquin before her True Blood days.
Paquin.
I can get it.
All right. Excellent. 3 for 3. Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see what's around the tree when I'm pawing through the presents, but when I sit back and get my present unwrapped, I look up and I see my parents. I see and smell my brother. That's clearly where the gas is. And I see my sister with something that looks like gingerbread on her glasses. And we don't have gingerbread, so this is odd. We made funny ornaments for the tree this year, and we make funny ornaments sitting here around the tree. So jolly. I didn't expect to feel this way. I was focusing on Santa, but the best presents are sitting here, and they aren't even wrapped up.
Hold for tears. But really, my feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV TV show Bob's Burgers, starring H. John Benjamin.
Gave you a little tricky one there. You got it. All right. Number 5. I just wanted to say I may have been a bit harsh at first. Well, what I really mean is thank you for saving my life, for saving our lives. You know, I come up here every night and look out to that hill, and imagine what it must be like on the other side. It's funny. I've never actually felt grass beneath my feet. I'm sorry. Here I am rambling on about hills and grass. You had something you wanted to say.
I got it at the last minute. My feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Chicken Run, starring Mel Gibson.
Starring Mel Gibson. Are you looking at our list of episodes right now?
I'm looking at the typed thing that you wrote down. My feelings would best be described, just so I don't forget.
I'm trying to read what's on your glasses. Okay, excellent. Number 6. And I suppose you just expect me to go weak at the knees and fall into your arms and cry hysterically and say we'll just figure this whole thing out. A bicontinental relationship with our daughters being raised here and there, and you and I just picking up where we left off and growing old together. And come on, Nick, what do you expect? To live happily ever after? Yes, to all of the above. Except you don't have to cry hysterically. Oh, yes, I do.
My feelings about this would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie The Parent Trap, starring the pre-drug-addled Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
6 for 6. All right, number 7. What the hell does that have to do with anything? That will prove I'm over Joe because I fuck somebody? Harry, you're going to have to move back to New Jersey because you've slept with everybody in New York, and I don't see that turning Helen into a faint memory for you. Besides, I will make love to somebody when it's making love, not the way you do it, like you're out for revenge or something.
What a way to put it. Well done. My feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie When Harry Met Sally, starring the incomparable Meg Ryan and the effervescent sweater-clad Billy Crystal.
Sweater must be mentioned. Correct. All right. You're killing it. I made so many of these. I'm
so many.
Okay. Number 8. Leslie and I have an amazing relationship, and it's very physical. He still pushes all of my buttons. People say, oh, but he's so much older than you. And you know what? I'm the one having to push him away. We have so much in common. We both love soup and snow peas. We love the outdoors and talking and not talking. We could not talk or talk forever and still find things to not talk about.
My feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Best in Show, starring Christopher Guest, a movie by Christopher Guest, written by Christopher Guest.
By Christopher Guest. For Christopher Guest. Excellent. Okay. Only 2 more. You're doing great.
Great.
3 weeks from now, I will be harvesting my crops. Imagine where you will be, and it will be so. Hold the line. Stay with me. If you find yourself alone riding in the green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled, for you are in Elysium, and you're already dead.
My God. My feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Young Frankenstein, starring Gene Wilder.
Incorrect. Would you like a hint?
Yeah. Give me another monologue.
This one's a trick. This one, take it back.
I take it back.
Some would say all the way back.
To the very first episode that we did. Oh, Elysium. Oh, of course. Oh, so yeah, my feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe, from the episode that we did not release.
From the very long first episode that is somewhere out there. Yeah.
It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah. We hadn't locked down the premise just yet. I got you on that one. Okay.
Did bitch.
Number 10, last one. You thought I didn't know. I've known what was happening for quite some time. It just took me a little while to find a suitable alternative for Jacqueline. And that James Holt job was just so absurdly overpaid that, of course, she jumped at it. So I just had to tell Irv that Jacqueline was unavailable. Truth is, there's no one that can do what I can do, including her. Any of the other choices would have found that job impossible, and the magazine would have suffered, especially because of the list. The list of designers, photographers, editors, writers, models, all of whom were found by me, nurtured by me, and have promised me that they will follow me whenever and if ever I choose to leave Runway. So he reconsidered. But I was very, very impressed by how intently you tried to warn me. I never thought I would say this, Andrea, but I see a great deal of myself in you. You can see beyond what people want and what they need, and you can choose for yourself.
That's so good. Joe, you should do drag and do the line reading with that. That would be amazing. To encapsulate it all, my feelings would best be described in a monologue from the made-for-TV movie The Devil Wears Prada, starring God herself, Meryl Streep. And Anne Hathaway's there too.
I knew the obvious choice was the Cerulean monologue. I almost went with just like a one-off random conversation from the movie, but then I saw this block of text that
It's
I
a
really
good block.
want to chew on.
It's a good block. You done good.
Justin, excellent. I would say that you are the undisputed champ of Mary Katherine Monologue Mania. Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel elated. I feel overcome with emotion. I want to dance. I want to yell at my grandmother and tell her she's horrible, slam the door in her face, and jump in a pool after I throwed a boy in there after he said, I can't swim great. I'm going to do all the things.
Kill you with my telekinesis from Carrie.
Yeah. That's so good. Which was so fun that like her job, like her day job was working at a video store, like an already dying relic of the late 90s and the early 2000s.
I wanted that job so bad.
So fun.
I want to go work at a video store right now.
We just started a couple days ago a new it's brand new. It just premiered on Wednesday. A new Dimension 20 season show called Never Stop Blowing Up, and it centers around a video store, one of the last remaining video stores in America, and the hilarity that ensues there. So much fun. So it was fun to like have those connections between like, oh, Mary Katherine is working at a video store and we're watching this thing that takes place at a video store. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all kismet.
You want to put people straight back into the 90s, put a video store into
a video store. Speaking of video store, let's take it back to the times of video stores with our next mini series. Joe, did we decide? I think I'm going to throw 3 options at you, and you can tell me which direction we're feeling for next month, and maybe we'll leave it up to a poll.
No. We decided. I'm good with the one you texted earlier.
Okay, great. Let's do that. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to do something a little unconventional. I guess we could call it our just like law enforcement mini-series.
I was going to say.
Which is really strange, like, because we're both not law enforcement enthusiasts by any means. But it just so happens that these 2 movies, you gave me yours, and I was trying to find a connection to it to like.
They are classics of the genre. It's kind of a crime genre, but more told from the police side of things.
Okay, we'll just call it. Yeah, okay, we'll call it the Crime Corner July. Crime Corner July. CCJ. I guess we'll start with mine to kind of like give you an idea of the spectrum of movies that we're talking about. So mine is over here and Joe's is over here. We're going to start with mine. It's from, I want to say it's like 1985, I think, the original. Oh, no, it's not. It's from the year of my birth, 1987. We're gonna be doing RoboCop.
RoboCop, which I have never seen, or any of the, I think, many sequels.
There were many, and I only saw the OG. And I didn't see the remake that they did in like 2019 or something like that. That did terrible, apparently. But yeah, we'll start there. It's a ridiculous, over the top, hyper violent, crazy movie that I should not have been watching at 4 or 5 years old. But it is ingrained in my memory of like, yeah, I watched RoboCop a bunch, and we'll have a whole discussion about that. Of like, I can't imagine a child watching this so much.
Yeah.
But we'll paint some background history, and we'll go from there, and then we'll round out the month with your pick, which we'll disclose on the next month, the next episode.
I think a classic 80s action movie just falls right in line for Justin. And when I tell people what my episode is, it's going to fall right in line for me.
Absolute Jonas. This would be great. And then I think from there, like, we can look at some of these others that we have posted up. We got some foreign language flicks we're going to discuss. We're going to circle back to maybe some actors.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a Winona series.
I'm really excited for the Winona. That's coming up in the next few months regardless. We'll talk Winona.
We'll do that. We might do some Jack Black discussion. We might come back and hit with another wild card month of doing a Bob's Burgers. Maybe that's when I throw in an album or something. I've been hitting Joe over the head with like, what albums have you heard or haven't heard that were influential to me? So maybe we'll go back and do that.
We need to go back into our text chain because we keep texting each other ideas for miniseries that are like bangers and then forgetting about them.
We need to hire somebody
write these down one of these days.
We need to go back. We should get someone to comb through our data. We'll get big AI on it, and they can look at it. But yeah, that was the Uncultured Universe that does SNL. It was a fun miniseries. This was great. Be sure to check us out on all the socials and at Uncultured Universe. Just do that there. Search for the hashtag. Catch us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, of course, and wherever you get your pods casted at. Check us out there. And we'll catch you for next month in July, where we go to Crime Corner July. Catch you guys later.
Very exciting. Bye.
Bye.